Welcome to the Zero Employee Company, the show about what it takes to build and run a company without employees. It's based on the book by Giovanni Brees. One question per episode, about 10 minutes. Today's question is the one Giovanni gets asked most. Can one founder really run an entire company with AI? Short answer, yes. He runs several. The honest answer takes a little longer because the founders who fail at this usually don't fail for the reason you'd expect. When people hear that Giovanni runs multiple businesses with no employees, they assume he's doing every job himself. They picture 20-hour days, a laptop open at 3 in the morning, and Giovanni trying to hold a dozen jobs together with caffeine while everything backs up behind him. The reality is pretty much the opposite. And that's the answer to today's question. Removing the team didn't make his job bigger. It changed the job. At his old agency, he spent some of his time doing the actual work. Most of the rest went into managing the people who did it. Neither is part of his day now. What replaced all of that is something the old business barely had. Giovanni designs systems, then judges what those systems produce. Architect and inspector. That's basically the job. Here's what that looks like in practice because it sounds simple until you try to build it. In the old world, Giovanni would decide he wanted cold outreach. Then he'd write the emails himself, or he'd hire someone and train them. After that, he'd manage them and keep spending energy making sure they stayed productive and aligned. That management didn't end. It was there forever. In the new world, he designs the outreach system once. He defines what a good message looks like and what context it needs. He sets the steps, decides where judgment is required, and specifies what the output has to look like before it gets anywhere near a real prospect. Then the system runs. His ongoing job gets much smaller. He inspects what it produces, catches failures, and changes the design when he sees the same failures clustering. The design work is heavy. Honestly, setting up a role properly takes much longer than doing the task himself one time. That's why most people don't make the switch. They compare the time required to build the system with the time required to do the task once. Of course, doing it once wins, so they do it once. Then they do it again next week, and they keep paying that cost every time the task comes back. The architect makes a different bet. Pay a large cost once, then stop paying a smaller cost forever. So here's a proper answer to the question through an ordinary day across several businesses. Pay attention to how little of it actually reaches Giovanni. The day starts before he does. Early, before he's awake, a shared source of truth refreshes itself. It's one file that every agent reads when it starts. That file contains the current priorities and the hard rules that apply to everyone. By the time anything runs, every agent across every business is working from the same current picture. Giovanni hasn't said anything. Scheduled jobs fire through the morning. One agent publishes that day's content for one venture. Another sorts the inbox and leaves drafted replies for Giovanni, which turns email into reviewing instead of writing. For a different business, another agent reviews a campaign and flags anything that needs a decision. Before any agent closes, it writes a log line. In Giovanni's operation, a task isn't done until it's recorded. These agents don't know what all the others are doing. They don't need to know. They share what's required through the common file and structured handoffs. And they stay in their lanes because each domain has exactly one owner. There are no meetings or stand-ups. Nobody is sitting around waiting for somebody else. Then there are the watchers sitting above the work. A health check confirms that the memory system is actually remembering instead of failing quietly. A separate sweep looks for problems that need Giovanni and have been sitting too long. Here's a rule that took him an embarrassing week to learn. Silence is the default. At first, his agents posted a cheerful update every time they woke up and found nothing wrong. After a few days, the channel was pure noise. Giovanni had trained himself to ignore it, which ruined the whole point of monitoring. Now, if an agent has nothing to report, it says nothing. It contacts him only when something genuinely requires a human. One line, one specific ask. So what actually reaches him? a handful of moments each day when the decision is his. Maybe an approval gate has opened because an email is about to go to someone outside the business. Maybe there's a change to something live, or something involving money. A blocker might have escalated. A piece of content might be staged and waiting for his yes. Everything else keeps running. Giovanni is free to do the work that genuinely needs him, or he can be away from the desk entirely. Now compare that with a normal day at the agency. His day was reactive from the first message until the last. People needed things from him. Fires had to be put out. Humans each held one piece of the context, so somebody had to keep syncing it between them. That somebody was Giovanni. He was the coordination layer, and the coordination layer can't take a real day off. Today, coordination is infrastructure. Handoffs happen through structured files. Ownership sits in a registry. A scheduled sweep handles escalation, and approval happens through a gate. The work a manager used to do is now built into structures that don't need their own manager. So, can one founder run an entire company with AI? Yes, but there's a catch. This is the part that separates the people who make it work from the people who quit after a month. You have to accept that your job changes. If you keep the old doer job and add AI tools around it, all you get is a faster version of your old life. You're still the bottleneck. You're just a quicker bottleneck. The founders who fail usually automate individual tasks while continuing to stand in the middle of everything. They carry work from one tool to another by hand. They become the courier, and the courier job doesn't scale. It quietly rebuilds the exact thing you were trying to get away from. The founders who succeed move to the edge. They design the machine and let it run. Then they put themselves at the boundary between the business and the outside world because that's where human judgment matters most. Inside the machine, agents can hand work to each other freely. If something goes wrong, it gets caught downstream. But when work is about to reach a customer, a prospect, or the public, it stops and waits for a human. That's where Giovanni sits, at the edge rather than in the middle. One more honest note. The first month feels wrong. The feeling of being busy disappears and you keep thinking you've forgotten something. You haven't. Busyness was never the point. Output was the point. Busyness was simply the tax the old model charged you for producing it. The next episode gets practical. It covers the first 5 roles Giovanni would replace with AI agents in exact order, and explains why starting with the impressive stuff is the fastest way to fail. The full model, including the day described here, is in Giovanni Brees's book, The Zero Employee Company. You'll find the link in the show notes. See you next time.